Starting right now. Okay, we are live. Hello and welcome to Fermenting Opinions Hangout. I'm your host, David Poseidon.
I'm your co-host, James McVeigh.
And we are Fermenting Opinions, the podcast and hangout in search of a more palatable political ferment. Tonight with us, we have Lisa and Melissa. And thank you very much for joining us. It's been a little while since we've been on together.
It has, yes.
But we wanted to get out there and talk. A lot's happened in the last month, essentially. But tonight we're going to focus on what appears to be a Republican defection among certain elected officials that we've noticed, and we're wondering what that signifies, if anything.
As if the liberal media wouldn't let you notice. I mean, it's all they talk about.
Right. But, well, yeah. I mean, it's the liberal media, the mainstream media, which may not be, there any distinguishment, depending on how you look at it. It's been nothing but anti-Trump and bashing Trump all day, every day, 24/7.
He makes it so easy, though.
He makes it so easy because all he has to do is speak, and there's things just negative about it. Or tweet, yeah.
Yeah.
All he has to do is open his mouth or get on Twitter, and he says or does something that's objectionable. It's very easy. It's shooting fish in a barrel. I don't want to necessarily credit him with knowing that and using that to direct the conversation, but that's neither here nor there. We've had people in our own state in Tennessee. Corker has come out very strongly against him, has mocked him openly, talking about the White House being adult daycare and somebody missed their shift. Was it just yesterday? I think it was Flake.
Yeah, Jeff Flake from Arizona.
Yeah,
senator for the United States. Yes, he announced simultaneously that he would not seek re-election and gave a very rousing speech on the Senate floor, basically condemning Trump, his supporters, and that movement ideologically.
Yeah, I think that's a very succinct way to put it.
That's what they pay me for.
Appreciate it. I don't pay you. But yeah, so we have this. We have guys like McCain who have been sort of longtime opponents in battle. And I guess what I'm noticing is these are all people who are not seeking re-election. McCain obviously can't for health reasons, and I feel really bad for he's got brain cancer. Is that accurate?
He does. He's also made it fairly clear, although he hasn't discussed it too terribly openly, that the prognosis is not good.
Is bad. Yeah.
So he's not. Realistically, he doesn't have another cycle in him.
Yeah. That if you're counting your days, essentially, I don't know if I would want to spend them, in having a pissing contest with Donald Trump. That's not how I would want to spend the rest of my life.
As a senator for the United States, yes.
I would do something more extreme, but never mind that.
But yes, I would very much. Yes.
If those are my last moments,
I would do exactly what John McCain is doing.
Right.
Can I speak?
So, go ahead, please.
So there's been some good ones, and they've all said some very inspiring things to other Republicans as they have departed. And I just think that David had mentioned something earlier about how they might be trying to, because they know they're going to lose, say nice things and fulfill some type of good moral legacy for I don't know what's banning against the establishment Republicans, if you will, and before they leave. And so it just makes me wonder, what's going to happen? Is Bannon really going to be able to fill those seats with someone that's going to be loyal to Trump? What's it going to take for him to manipulate someone to fill those seats?
Oh, sorry. No, Melissa, I believe you were trying to.
No, I'm good.
I was going to say, I think I don't know about Bannon, and if I want to ascribe that to him, I would say realistically, in these primary challenges, you have a lot of far-right conservatives emboldened by Trump. I don't want to put them in the same camp as the Nazis and the people like that who have also been emboldened by Trump, but you have people who are much more on his message of extreme positions and extreme
nationalism.
Right positions. Nationalism is a great term for that. And they're emboldened by it. But the other problem is that the base, the Republican base specifically, is emboldened by it. So if you're going into a primary challenge as a moderate Republican who's criticized Trump, And
I would say the nationalists are specific in the Republican Party, not the other way around, which you just said.
yeah, yes, that's what I'm getting at is Republican primaries, where Republican voters are voting in the primaries, where these guys all lose.
Right.
They're not going to lose because they're Republican. They're going to beat Democrats. The Republicans will beat the Democrats in those seats, except maybe Jeff Flake, because that's kind of a mixed bag there. But for example,
Jeff Flake is extremely conservative.
I know,
Right.
but he has a tenuous grasp on his seat.
And Arizona is a
state.
But what he's already announced too.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say.
running
So
it,
he
yeah.
dropped out because he was not conservative enough, and he knew he wasn't going to get it.
Which is insane.
So what
I
I'm
get
trying
it.
to say is that they know that when it comes to a primary challenge amongst the Republican Party, they don't have the support to win. Corker doesn't have it in Tennessee. We were already trying to oust Corker before Donald Trump became president.
Sure.
You know, he knows he's not.
Which
getting
is
this
funny
time
because
around.
Trump considered Corker as a running mate
Oh yeah.
back during the campaign.
Oh,
like
indeed. Yeah. No, I
was that
understand.
in an attempt to moderate himself or something? Like
I
broader
don't
appeal?
know.
Because Trump won by going more extreme rather than less extreme.
Yeah, well, exactly. But that's the issue is that Trump and his advisors, I'm sure, have seen that the extremism is what's getting him draw.
Yeah.
And from the far right and
Sure.
the people that, you know, as a conservative myself, I really wish would just drop off the fucking map. But that's a whole nother problem.
Right.
These people are serious primary challengers. They put up a candidate and they'll probably win. It's the same thing happened with the Tea Party and moderates, you know, establishment Republicans. That's what you're really looking at. It's not a question of can they win versus a Democrat. It's a question of it's a waste.
Can they win
it's a waste of
against
their
their
donors'
primary
money.
challenge,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
a waste of their donors' money to even have to try to fight a primary challenger who the base is going to slaughter.
So would you say the only reason these people are coming out the way they are is because they know they're going to lose anyway? So they're just this is their way of bowing out and giving a parting shot?
Yeah, that's basically what I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there are more people, more Republicans in Congress that feel this way, that feel the exact same way Flake and Corker and McCain do, that are hesitant to come out and say things because they want to be reelected, because that's the name of the game. That's how you stay in the
Is-
game.
Yeah.
But when they're looking at their poll numbers and whatnot, Flake came out early against Trump, and his poll numbers are abysmal. I mean, he was in the low teens.
That's
Not going to make it.
pretty bad.
Yeah, not going to make it. Corker, same situation.
Why did he sink?
Because he came out against Trump. Because the base, the actual Republican base.
Is the base
Well,
in
then-
Arizona really against illegal immigration? And why? Like, what dynamic
Yes.
connected them to Trump so heavily?
Yes, hugely so. Arizona is a border state, and the Republicans there have always been very anti-immigrant.
Yeah. There's a lot of resentment.
Yeah, that's
Basically,
why Trump goes to
anti-immigrant
Arizona
resentment.
for rallies.
That's
Like,
why and he goes to Mexico and he had that nice conversation and then he turned around and the next night or like the same night he went to Arizona and just demagogued the hell out of the people he just met with and played nice with.
And so
I remember this distinctly from the campaign.
I would say realistically though to that question that yes, that's why they're giving their parting shots is they know the writing on the wall. They're not going to run again.
Yeah.
They know that their time is done. And why not be honest and moral and use this position now instead of courting votes to say, no, this is how I really feel. This guy's a fucking stain on our party. This guy is terrible and
This-
someone should say something. So I'm gonna, because there's no political ramification for me saying it.
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Because they're done. They get to bow out and retain some dignity.
I mean,
in doing it
realistically,
that way,
you
yeah.
know, realistically, were I to hold a position,
You're right. It's very noble. You're right. Because there were people that were,
You cut out.
well,
Lace.
why don't they fight? Because if they don't fight, then Bannon could get somebody in there. Or something bad could happen, but I guess what
But
you're
at the same
saying is
time,
noble.
Why would you waste your donors' money? You know, like you have other people to think about.
Yeah, hopefully they can direct it towards a moderate.
And I'm sure a moderate will run against them. Oh, God, I hope so.
Listen,
That's
what's up?
interesting. That's an interesting point, Lacey. The question that I have in light of all of this is, I don't see it so much as, I don't know, a defection per se, but I understand what you're saying. It's a good way to kind of get your opinion out there now that you have nothing left to lose. But what I wonder is, because you brought up the word moderate centrist. What do you think this might do to maybe bolster some of the more middle of the road? And I'm speaking maybe primarily of a libertarian perspective. Do you think that something like this might bode well in future elections for more candidates to get libertarians up there in the public eye?
Do you think would a libertarian run as a Republican?
I'd like to see a libertarian run as a libertarian.
Well, yeah, but they don't win elections. You know, I mean, in all fairness.
Well, that's true. In all fairness, but however, there are so many factions that are breaking down, not just within the GOP, but you're also seeing it from the Democrat Party as well.
Yes.
There's a lot of, and I know that Democrats do tend to circle the wagons a lot better than Republicans do and rally around their candidates when it comes time to rally. However, the parties are both just as splintered as the other. So I'm thinking, what could we possibly? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, you finish.
I was just thinking that, this might be the fracturing that we need to kind of give Americans another perspective that there are more than just two options every 4 years to vote for.
Okay, well, I think that's because your quadrant of what would be introduced into the predominant voting cycle would probably be a very good one right now, because everyone is so shocked at how the Republicans have become so blazing about the nationalist sector of themselves that the president is just not doing anything to really flame that fire. And he's also creating a lot of other fires that holy shit, just take the fucking phone away. Don't let him, I'm sorry, don't let him tweet anymore. So yeah, but I think that the people, I always try to say that I'm a moderate Democrat. I actually am very, very far left, but I try to be fiscally conservative in a way as well and think from a financial perspective, because I mean, I deal with finances all the time. So I just think that way. Sure. And I would really like to put my money behind a smart and somewhat conservative. And by that, I don't mean cutting off welfare or anything like that. I mean, continue these programs, but figure out a way to go lean. I feel like I don't know, but I'm sure there's some way
our interview,
to
our interview tonight. Yes. Yeah. And that's exactly what we were talking about.
We interviewed Mariah Phillips, and we were talking about reforming healthcare, and if we went single payer, how could it work under government? And I was the one who suggested, maybe we need to have a bunch of libertarians run that department.
I thought he was joking, and I was like, that's not a bad idea.
I wasn't joking. I mean,
we've got to, that. That's my major point, and that's what I grilled her on. Is that's not affordable. You can't.
Before we go too far into that, I get what you're saying, and this was a Democratic candidate who was essentially agreeing that we need to cut the fat. That let's not be cruel and inhuman in
doing so.
But what we're trying to do as a country, what policy we have, but we don't. That doesn't mean we give away the farm either, right? That there's a middle ground that all reasonable people, I think, would agree on. That yes, these are basic human needs. Let's find a way to take care of them. But we don't need to just have a bloated budget and massive waste and fraud and all these other things that can come along with it. We need to have oversight. We need to have a way to trim the fat. These aren't illiberal ideas. These are not, anti-democratic ideas. And I think too much it's associated. Oh, I'm a liberal. That means I just want, free stuff for everybody. That's bullshit. No liberal on this planet really thinks that. None that I've encountered anyway. You see, yeah, and because you probably know,
but I know plenty of liberals that don't.
Bernie Sanders fans. Bernie Sanders fans.
And now here's it. And you bring that up.
And I still love Bernie, but
right, but you bring that up, and that was actually something I wanted to touch on too. Is that you brought up this fracture in the Republican Party, and it's obviously evident, and I truly believe the mainstream media is even pushing it more. But we're not talking about the massive fracture in the Democratic Party. Yeah, I mean. It is blatant. If you go to any kind of Democratic forum and look at these people and how they talk, they fucking hate each other. And they are at each other's throats, from the Bernie-crats to the Hillary supporters. There is no bridge across that divide. There's no bridge.
Maybe I'm just not paying attention to it enough.
They hate each other. and it's this huge infighting issue. And
Well,
now
that's why I brought it
we've
up.
revamped the super delegates, and you've got a shitload of super delegates who are Republican corporate interests that now the Bernie-crats are losing their damn minds over, saying, oh, DNC, way to fuck us again.
And the Bernie crowd,
but they're a huge portion of the base. Like they're half
I don't know
the
about,
damn base.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Like
there's a reason Hillary Clinton
sort of,
lost. It's because Bernie supporters didn't go vote.
Well, because the Russians were very effective with
well, sure, but not only that, but
which is what creates the Bernie crowds.
Sure, but I mean, in the same time, I get progressive liberals in their position. Like I get it. I understand why Bernie Sanders would appeal to you.
So both bases are somewhat fractious. Okay. And here's the thing.
Fractious. You're just
and Melissa, to go back to your point, you're talking about this may be the time for a third option, right? For libertarianism. My thing, the way I look at it, is libertarians have the best chance, and this is funny because it sort of contradicts itself, is that if you guys have to get rid of the libertarian wing of the Libertarian Party.
You mean the fedora hat with wearing?
Yes, those guys.
Those guys, neckbeards.
You have the neckbeards and the anarcho-capitalists and the people who have taken that ideology to the extreme. When you ignore side constraints and involve basic human compassion and acknowledgement of reality in favor of an ideal of libertarianism, which has everybody living in their own basement or a bunker with their gun to protect their shit.
Well, it's the same. It's the same shit though that all political ideologies.
Right. That you have the extreme and and that's what I'm saying. That's not an attack on you. That's not an attack on Melissa. Yeah. But I'm saying that element exists, and that's every bit as toxic to you guys. Because when I first heard about libertarian, it's like, oh, government stays out of your business. Focus on individual rights. We don't need a bloated government. Okay, like it. And then I started talking to libertarians on the internet, and I go, oh, holy shit, no. No.
Yeah, I understand.
That was the problem for me.
That's because you're only talking to right-leaning libertarians.
No, I am a right-leaning libertarian, and that's not the problem. It's that
we talk to left-leaning libertarians.
There are
on idiots. This hangout.
Yeah, we have.
And
what's the big difference with them?
I couldn't tell you.
You mean the Antifa
I don't want to talk bad about anybody who's come on
types
here.
Like the anarcho-capitalists and shit, or the
that's not Antifa type.
Well, no, I'm sorry, the anarcho-communists.
I'm lost.
The really psycho.
I thought communism and libertarianism
are so much individual liberty, but we also want the government to do everything for us. There are libertarians like that who are just fucking lost, that don't understand the reality of the situation we're even talking about. I mean, unfortunately, libertarianism is theoretically on a political compass, you're either libertarian or authoritarian. I mean, and that's just the way it is.
That's on the XY axis.
No,
you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, only on exactly.
No, exactly. But that's what I'm talking about. But on a political compass,
because you can be a left or right-leaning libertarian. I get that, and
that means you want less government involved in your life.
Frankly, you know what I like? I like the idea of centrism. I like the fact of the two sides in the middle coming together and saying, you know what, let's all come together. You're pretty much like me. You're pretty much like me. Let's just leave the fucking crazies at their own aisle ends, the book ends, and let's us come together and vote for a candidate that you know what, we have to compromise. Well, this is called settlement. This is when you don't go to trial because you don't want to get your ass kicked. And to me right now, getting your ass kicked is our president getting us in a war with fucking Korea.
Yeah, well, hey, I don't think that's going to be a problem, but hey, whatever.
But this, this is a perfect time this is a perfect time to plug the podcast we just recorded. The actual iTunes episode is not out yet, but it's already on YouTube because we did a live recording of it as well. This is exactly what we were talking about with Mariah Phillips, who was just here with us, about the idea of these sides coming together for reasonable, rational governance. And I've espoused rational governance since before the election.
I mean, I'll fly the freak flag high. That's
somebody show me, a Republican candidate who can be reasonable and rational. I will vote for that person. I came so close to McCain. And we have people on the left, Democrats, who are reasonable and rational. They're not this far-flung extremist kind of ideology. We're saying we're real people who live in these communities. We're coming together for solutions for these communities, for real people. That's what we need to move forward. I think there's an element of libertarianism that is fair in that and needs to be a part of that conversation as well. It's just when you take any of these ideologies to the extreme, it puts it in a bad place, and we don't need to define ourselves that way. So what are we going to get?
No, and that's what I was going to say. Is I think what you're looking at is two massive fractures in the two massive parties. I mean, there's clearly an either pro-Trump or anti-Trump camp in the Republican Party, and it's becoming clearer and clearer. I mean, some of us have been vocal about it since day one because we don't face political ramifications. Even those who do have said, fuck it, I'd rather not run again, and I'd rather just be honest and say this guy's a moron and is dangerous.
Stop it.
Even from within his own party.
You tell him, Monty.
Now you've got, but on the other end, you have Democrats, again, like I was trying to say, is that there is so much infighting in the Democratic Party over progressive liberals and more moderate
We don't have
liberals.
any leadership. I'll be honest with that. But I haven't seen as much of the infighting.
But the DNC
is
no leadership. I agree.
The DNC
no positive message.
The DNC is absolutely about maintaining the moderate status quo. That's what they're trying to do. And it's pissing off the progressive liberals who are a huge part of your base. And so what I think you're going to see really realistically is that as this shit becomes more contentious heading towards 2020, if we're going to see party splits, both parties are going to split. You're going to end up with essentially 4 camps. You're going to have moderate Republicans, moderate Democrats,
I hope that doesn't
far
happen.
left.
See, and that's why I presented the argument that I did, because if we're ever going to, this seems like if we're ever going to have a time when we're going to have more than 2 parties on a debate stage, this next election might be one of the prime opportunities to have candidates that are not GOP or Democrat only, or having someone that would label themselves as an independent, but they caucus with, the Democrats, or, Rand Paul caucusing with the Republicans. This might be because that's why I said it's not just the Republicans that are fractured; it is the Democrats that are fractured, and it's almost like a mirror image of each other. And it might be a time that we can have this discussion with, hey guys, it doesn't have to be one or the other. There are other options. We just, I don't know.
That's for voters. That's not for politicians. I mean, it's easier to try to keep the camp together so that you got a 50-50 shot than it is to have to pick a side when it's 25, 25, 25, 25. Like you're going to alienate the racist pieces of shit on the far right, or you're going to alienate the psychotic socialists on the far left.
Well, don't they need to be alienated?
Well, I completely agree with you, but I'm saying that's not how you win elections. Like that's.
But they're both small. I think they're fringe, and I think that you can turn the people that matter.
They're not fringe.
That's what 26%.
Donald Trump proved, first of all, on the right that it's not fringe. As much as we like to think we're decent fucking people,
I think the number I've seen floated is there's something like 26% are the far right, like super nationalists. Nationalists, yeah.
But the same number is probably almost similar.
And that's inflated by another certain percent of people who are just going to go Republican because it's better than Hillary, right? Like that kind of vote. It's better than whatever the Democrats are going to give us. So I have to go this way. I don't really have a choice. And you get something sort of a mirror image. I don't think they're moral or intellectual equivalents, but you're going to get something like a mirror image on the left side of people who are hardcore supporters of, say, like the Sanders vote or something about Hillary or whatever.
But, and honestly, Sanders wasn't that hardcore, but the Democratic Party and the liberals within it have made it a hardcore issue.
They sort of petty fog the differences.
Sure. That's what they're doing. And it's based around Bernie support. I mean, Bernie Sanders just refused to endorse or his movement, the Unite, I forget what it's called, but they refused to endorse the governor or the guy running for governor of Virginia, the Democrat.
Really?
Yeah. And not only did they not endorse him, they unendorsed him and essentially said, fuck him.
Wow.
And he is losing now in the polls when he was supposed to have Virginia on lock. It's looking like a Republican is going to take Virginia now. And that is a huge point of contention among Democrats because they're like, why are you guys like this? Why can't you just fall in line? Because your party's fucking corrupt and it's obvious.
Who's corrupt in the party?
It was reported in the news. Emails leaked. You cheated the man.
What are you
Yes.
talking about?
But that doesn't extend to every candidate running for
DNC
office.
scandal that saw Wasserman Schultz get ousted from being the chair of the party because the DNC
Because of
colluded
the
with
Russia
Hillary Clinton
hacks,
to
yeah.
deny the nomination to Bernie Sanders.
Wait, say that. So, oh, what happened?
You're not
What are you
aware of the
specifically
fact
referring
that
to?
the DNC colluded with Hillary Clinton to deny Bernie Sanders the nomination.
Yes, I am aware of
They did.
that
I mean, there was
fact,
absolute proof of
smartass.
that.
And it's not even a fact like you stated it.
It is, yes. It's
Collusion, though?
yes. The emails between the DNC and Hillary's campaign saying, "Oh, don't worry about Bernie. We're not
Okay,
going to give
fine.
him this.
It
we're not
doesn't.
gonna do
Okay.
this."
My understanding, and I'll just get this out there. My understanding, it was just internal emails within the DNC saying we're going to throw Sanders under the bus for XYZ reasons.
These were
Because we want
communications
Hillary.
with Hillary's campaign too,
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
through Podesta. Yes, I mean that was the massive scandal that Wasserman Schultz had to step down as the chair of the DNC.
Right. Well, just internal DNC emails is bad
Yeah,
enough.
but that shit was made public, and
Right.
it pissed a lot of progressive liberals
It
off.
pissed me off. And I've said this before. When I heard that the DNC were trying to paint Sanders, who I guess is culturally
Yo, I
associated
just
Jewish,
gotta.
as an
I
atheist
just got
in
a
order
text
to
update.
tank his campaign, I said, fuck the DNC, fuck the Democrats, fuck all this stuff. I am still a liberal. I am not a Democrat. I left the party. Fuck all of you all. And then your ass talked me into voting for Gary Johnson. And
That's why they pay me.
and I still resent you
And
for that.
that's still why they pay me.
And once again, mea culpa.
That's kind of the point of juries and everything, though. Is I really sell a good
Johnson's pro voucher, and I just can't deal with that.
Hey,
So,
well, whatever.
anyway, where were we?
What we were talking about is there's a divide between both parties. I mean, and it's I know a lot of Democrats don't want to acknowledge it, but it's extremely fractious. Like, it's bad. Your party is split terribly.
I think,
over
no
this
offense,
DNC
can I just say something? I honestly
Sure.
disagree with you because, James, you're not in our party, so no offense. But the most of the Democrats that I know never talk about that. Pretty much every Democrat I know is united in wanting anything better than Trump, and we will work together to make that happen.
I have to agree with
And
that as
I
well.
belong to a lot of Democratic forums and Facebook groups and whatnot
And I go to a lot of Democratic
Yeah.
Party meetings.
yeah, well, yeah.
There's almost
With people
nothing
that
but
matter.
outside
Okay.
of that.
Yeah.
Sure, but
that's what I'm
yeah,
again,
and I'm
too.
with you on
Yeah.
that. But I'm saying that as a national whole, as a group, nationally, there's a bunch of infighting amongst liberals over whether or not you should back the moderate side or the progressive side. And clearly, that means something because when the Bernie Sanders group comes out and says, "Don't support this Democratic candidate in Virginia," and the Republican jumps ahead in the
That's-
polls when he was losing massively. That's a
It's
huge
going to be.
thing in a
I've
Democratic
heard it's going to
state
be closer, yeah, than I thought it was.
because
of
of
the
this one
fractures.
thing.
What?
Yeah.
What do y'all think about Kamala Harris?
I've heard good things. I don't know that much about her. I've heard her speak a
I
couple
think she
times.
could unite the party.
I've
She's-
enjoyed
she
watching
speaks
her.
well.
I've enjoyed watching her on committees. I think she
She's
asks hard-hitting
amazing.
questions. I mean, she's a former U.S. prosecutor.
You glitched out on us, like, I'm sorry. Say it again.
She's amazing. She's very smart. Yeah, she's the senator from Southern California, and she was the former federal prosecutor. She's brilliant. She's a woman, obviously, and she's a black lady. She's a minority, I guess. She's got a family. She's made it being this, really kind of pro-prosecution, almost conservative in ideals, you would think, amongst liberals in what she does. But she's very democratic, and she's also got like a lot of knowledge about how to help, I guess, everyone from all different means operate well in a city that's huge.
I would say that, from an objective standpoint, Democrats could do worse. You could pilot Hillary 2020, which apparently is being fucking floated.
I don't know, man. I need to know what group
Gross.
you're talking to because
That was the New York Times that floated that yesterday.
I've been
huge
out of it.
thing.
I think that's just
Guys,
alternative.
I've been building
facts.
Halloween decorations for the last month and a half. Like, I am not as well versed. I'm not as in touch lately.
But yes, the Democrats are fractured like the Republicans are. There's a huge disagreement on do you fall
But
in
Hillary
line?
2020, that's
Hillary has a strong base and has since Bill Clinton was president.
She has, sure.
They respect her and
but
love her.
And she
Because,
should
no
be an
offense, but,
infinitely
like,
better
she-
president than Donald Trump. Whatever you think of her
Yeah,
politics,
think about the fact.
she's a competent
frankly-
person. You might not like what she's competent at.
You know,
Just
guys,
like I wouldn't like what Pence is competent at if he took over.
guys, like
Like-
I've talked about this before. Thank your lucky stars that Donald Trump became president and not Hillary Clinton, because you would see the exact opposite backlash.
I don't think it's exact.
Oh my
No.
God, it would be exact.
There's no equivalent to Donald Trump. There's no
There isn't.
I'm
barometer
not
for the
trying
world
to draw,
we
I'm
live
not
in
trying
right
to
now.
draw an equivalent between their characters or anything else like that. I'm telling you the reaction you'd get politically, and that's it.
No, we would just still be hearing about Benghazi. That's the only
Yeah,
difference.
no. They would hang her for every move she made, like they did Obama. Except Hillary Clinton is a much easier target because A, she's a woman,
Mhm.
B, she's a Clinton, and C, she's been surrounded her entire political career by rumors of scandal that have held some traction.
Right.
So what? She's like a woman that's done what, like a zillion fucking big swinging dicks did before her.
She doesn't get a pass for being a woman.
See, no, but what I'm saying is,
No, she doesn't get a
ideas in
pass
general.
because she's a woman.
No,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
that's a problem too.
Thank you, David.
Don't get me wrong, but she doesn't get a pass for being a woman either. She has accomplished a lot.
Who said she did? She didn't.
I'm just saying she shouldn't, but
I'm
also,
saying she
I'm
got
letting
judged
you
more
know-
harshly.
I'm letting you know that this is going to poise Democrats and put them in a position to do a fuckload better over the next 10 or 20 or 50 years based on Donald Trump's failures.
Maybe.
You have Donald Trump as your beatings like post. I mean,
It's
how
too
can
easy.
you fuck this up?
No, no, no,
Donald
no, no,
Trump
no,
is
no.
like one of the worst people ever. You can win elections just being anti-Trump.
True.
Yes.
He's still appointing
yes.
Gorsuch.
Yes.
There's damage being done that's irrevocable.
Yeah.
He can put out all
Or
the
if
emails
we-
in the world, and those can all be repealed and tore down, just like he's doing to all of Obama's stuff. But he put Gorsuch on the bench. We're going to have 30 plus years of garbage influence
Maybe.
on jurisprudence. No, it's already happening.
Is it?
The Trinity Lutheran, like,
He wasn't involved in that decision.
yeah, it was.
No, he was not. Neil
I
Gorsuch.
That
don't
was the
know. I
same,
don't know
that
the
was the
answer to
same
that.
month that happened.
No,
I'm
he
almost-
was not here for the oral
I'm-
arguments on that decision. That was an 8-8 decision, or that was an 8-person decision, was it not? I don't think he was there for oral
I
arguments.
thought he was.
I
I'd have
hope
to
he
double check.
wasn't.
I'd have to
How
double
is it
check.
even possible? They run on yearly cycles where you split it between decision and year. I mean, he was appointed. That decision came out like 4 months later.
I'll have
he
to
could have been
research
involved.
it because I can't do it right now. I was fairly convinced.
No, I
That
think it was,
Gorsuch
I think it
was
was
part
an
of it.
8-8
I'm going to research it.
Please
okay,
do.
I think it was an 8-judge decision.
I will stand corrected
and
if that's
I'm
the fact.
almost
If that's the
positive
case.
it went very highly, like
Because
was it
the
7
originals came out and
No, it was like 7-1 or something. I mean, it was a very strong decision in favor of Trinity Lutheran.
yeah, I know it was, which is appalling.
Well, that was your liberals voting that way too.
What was it?
If it's
Breyer and-
7-1, then yes, liberal members.
Let's
of the
not
court-
get in the weeds on it. Let her look up while we continue on with
Mm.
something else. Do we want to talk about anything else with regards to Republican defection and fractious parties? Do we want to talk about Nazis? Not that we're going to have any disagreement, but like,
yeah, I was going to say, I think we should probably stick on this because it's making for good argument.
Well, I want to ask
Yeah.
one question.
yes,
Yes.
please.
My final closing thought is the people, though, we didn't really go deep into the words that were actually said by these guys, like, for instance, Flake
Yeah.
quoting Teddy Roosevelt and
Lincoln.
talking about how the president should only be given enough power that he deserves through his actions of being a good or a bad, representative of the state and all these things. And he really did also at the end, and I'm not a true Republican anymore. So, I mean, but I do attribute the ideals he spoke about to be very Republican, and maybe that's establishment Republicans. But to me, it's the Republicans that are reasonable. I feel like it's the ones that maybe are, even they could think things like welfare is wrong or, but whatever. I still think they're reasonable in that they think, like people should not be robbed of the right to get married if they're gay. Or, I feel like there's sort of like moderate middle grounds that could be there. And That to me is like kind of what they symbolize, but I don't know, maybe not, because I do think Flake would probably have some things I disagree with him on. I don't know.
A lot.
But,
He's deeply conservative. But I think with regards to what you're saying is that what he was quoting in Roosevelt, saying that a president deserves, praise based on his merits, and he deserves criticism based on his merits, and to not engage the president in that way, and not to assign credit or blame, in a way that's meritorious, and instead engage it essentially. I don't think he called it tribalism, but effectively tribalism of just towing the line because he's your party and he's your guy and you're supposed to support him because he's the president. Is what do you call it? A servile and essentially an un-American and morally reprehensible. And he's completely right. I agree with everything about that. I find it hard to believe anybody who wouldn't agree with what he says. It's the fact of the matter is, though, politics is a game and people play to win.
It is.
So in reality, that hasn't been playing out. That's why we have Donald Trump as a president. You have guys like Ted Cruz and Romney and McCain. Well, not as much McCain because he's towed that line. But these guys who have come out and criticized him and have gone along and played along with Trump as who he is, because not just because he's the president, because it's politically expedient that coming out strongly against the president is political suicide. And the only people who've come out strongly as a president who are Republicans are people who are not seeking re-election because either they can't run again or because they don't have any chance of winning if they do. And that's the grain of salt that this has to be taken with. And I think that's the problem. But what Flake said is completely right. Anybody across the spectrum should be able to get with what he's saying. It's just, qualifying his motivations for saying it, I think is what's,
Well, what do you think's what will happen if there's a landslide of Republicans that are up for nomination that for whatever reason, when they realize they can't win, and I don't know who those sensitive people are, but, and where they are, but do you think that, or those seats, if you will, are all going to give these FU Trump speeches, and what effect do you think that will have on the party? Melissa.
Oh, talk about being put on the spot.
Boom. Go.
Well, I still feel like, and this might be a naive analysis, but I still feel like we're nowhere different than we have been with the Tea Party, when the Tea Party kind of evolved under the Obama administration. I feel like what we're seeing now is, the Tea Party's been kind of silent lately. I don't know for what reason. This would seem to be a prime opportunity for them to kind of
just
step up
heads up. Most of the Tea Party just decided they'd take the masks off and go march as Nazis. But
well, okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's like a same song, different verse.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
honestly,
sure, but the Tea Party again. The real danger for these politicians isn't in a general election. The danger is in primaries. And when you have a Tea Party, you oust people on a national level, like on a grand scale. How many of these dumb fucks like Ted Cruz did we get because of the Tea Party?
Yeah.
Well, no, what I'm not saying I support, what's going on with or without, the Tea Party. I guess to answer Lace's question, I feel like this is just another permutation of the same fracture that's been evident in the last 8 years in the Republican Party. It's just the players are different, but the game remains the same.
Sure, and I think it's going to reflect itself just as much in the Democratic Party in years to come. I think you're going to have progressives versus moderates, and I think you're going to get the same thing. And I think you're going to be shocked when moderate Democrats are unseated by socialists, like people like Bernie Sanders, who are pushing more extreme messages because they're going to take root.
I guess I'm biased by where I live.
Yes, because
But-
you guys,
Because we're not going to get
You have to be banded together.
left-wing, you know,
you have to band together. to
granola
get,
candidate.
You're going to have to band together just to get 30% of the vote. no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We have to band
but-
together. We have to Big
But
Tent.
in liberal
So
areas,
we don't see really within local party meetings and stuff like that. Because when we had Mariah Felcher, she was talking about Marshall County. She was talking about pretty deep red areas, and including Columbia and Murray County, Maury County.
Maury.
That's the carpetbagger in me coming out. Sorry. That we don't have big ideological disagreements. We really don't. We're a big tent. We all get along because we're all pushing for the same thing.
and that's
and
what
that's-
the Democratic
And that's
Party
unseating. It's unseating Republicans.
and that
um,
was what the Democratic Party used to be. I mean, the Democratic Party was pretty easy.
And
to
that's
fall
what we
in
are
line with.
here. And you're talking about these, like I said, the granola candidates
Well, but they're not
taking
necessarily-
root in other
but they're-
places.
But they're not really granola. Like again, when you had Bernie was not that unreasonable, but he was pushing things further left. And then Hillary Clinton had to do damage control when she realized
and she
actually drew a
took up
base.
like 80% of his platform.
Yeah, she just ripped his shit off.
and
I
that's why
mean,
Sanders ended up endorsing her. And sure, he was playing.
Yeah, and he
the game too
obviously
at that
like
point.
you could tell the man had a gun to the back of his head.
Mm.
But yeah, that's exactly.
But it wasn't
what
untrue what he said either. Yeah,
No, I mean I agree, and I get the idea of political.
but I
defection.
just don't see a bunch of politically toxic Democrats rising to prominence. We're seeing people in a reaction to Trump
Well,
looking for a return to
You-
reasonable governance.
you don't see progressive liberals as politically toxic because you side more with them. But
That
problem
depends
is
on what
that
you mean when you're saying
our
progressive liberals.
fracture in the Republican Party, to put a differentiator on this, our fraction in the fracture in the Republican Party is way worse.
Yeah.
It's way worse. It is.
And it's obvious.
You think it is?
It is. Yes, of
Oh,
course
yeah.
it is. Because the real
Because you guys
difference
hold
is-
all the damn cards
Well,
right
but
now,
the
and you
difference-
can't do anything
But hang
legislatively.
on, no, but it's really the difference is not even legislatively, like actual ideology in our base. The difference is that you're either a moderate Republican, like somebody who holds true to these ideals that people will piss on as being racist or sexist or something like that, even though it's some technical issue that they're trying to point out, like that has a disproportionate effect to like 0.05% of the country, and that makes you a racist. That's what we used to deal with. Now you've got people that are in the Bannon camp that are nationalists that are fucking racists
They're
and
fucking
bigots.
marching in their goddamn
Yeah, that are
khakis.
really shitty
Yeah.
people. Like, and that's the deal is that
And they're
you
hyper
gotta draw a
religious.
line. Like, you got to really draw a line.
Some of them.
And the difference with the Liberal Party or with liberal candidates, whatever, with the Democratic Party and the fracture there, is that you guys are infighting over a candidate. Like, it's either Hillary was great or Hillary sucked and she was a piece of shit moderate and she needed to go and we need to be more progressive. But you guys aren't really fighting that big of a gap on your issues.
Yeah.
Whereas with on the conservative side, we're fighting it.
Our
Huge
big
gap.
struggle, will be finding a candidate for 2020 that we can field, that people can get behind. It has a positive message. That's the problem, because it's too easy to be anti-Trump. It's the easiest damn thing you can do
And I
is be anti-Trump. You have to have a positive message that engages people on both sides of the aisle.
and my first thought.
That's our big
Such a
struggle.
great call to duty, David. That's great.
Well, I think
That's a great
and
idea.
I want to shout Lace out for this too. Is that my first thought is the person who becomes, optically the one I would focus on would be Kamala Harris.
Sure.
However, she's not going to resonate with moderate Republicans or anything like that. She takes a very strong, pointed tone that comes off with that thing that Republicans hate, that liberal air of superiority. And she bathes in it. I mean,
But
she
she-
reeks of it. She lives in it. The stench comes off of her.
I've heard I've heard a few of her.
and she is
speaking
very
engagements.
pointed and very
Can
liberal.
I have a say now?
Please.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
Okay, so and James, I agree with you, and I'm okay. I have to say this very delicately because I swear to God, I'm not at all saying anyone is racist, but I will think that everyone or a lot of people on the right will look at her and say the left is playing identity politics, and they're going to think that they picked a Black woman, and so that like fits the narrative, and that's bad. And I fear that just naturally turning people away. Not saying they're racist, not saying they're misogynistic, just saying that.
I mean, I think that's a fair assessment.
That's what Fox News will do.
Well, no, that's a fair assessment.
I'm going to be completely honest. That's what Fox News will do, and there's a certain percentage of the population will just swallow that hook, line, and sinker.
That's a fair assessment, but it brings me back to the next question of 2008.
Melissa
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Melissa.
I think both parties are guilty of that, because I think that in the last 2 elections, we'll go back to Herman Cain and go back to Ben, what's his face?
Carson.
Sass.
Uncle Tom himself.
Ben Carson.
Oh, Carson.
Ben Carson. Oh, I will make that argument. Don't you fucking tempt me.
So I think, because
I agree with you. I do.
Anyway, both parties did their best to focus on the race card and the identity politics, and look at the pandering. You're pandering now to a demographic by putting someone like Herman Cain or Ben Carson up there. And so I think that the risk is on both sides of having that.
I would say that on their own, just to be fair, both Ben Carson and Herman Cain had plenty of credentials to run for the office.
Absolutely.
I mean,
My little brother wanted to vote
Carson
for Ben
did.
Carson badly.
Ben Carson
I don't either.
is a surgeon
and a brain surgeon for John
And
Hopkins.
he's a
was
very,
chief
very,
of
very,
medicine
very-
there. The man is probably
right.
one of,
and they put him in charge of HUD.
Oh yeah, no, that's later. I'm talking about him running for president. Like, that's a whole other story. I'm talking about
What is that? How does that give him the capacity to lead? You know, there's this.
He's a conservative.
This argument from
black.
authority kind of thing.
He's a black conservative who is very brilliant and accomplished.
Are his credentials that would make him a good president? That's what I'm asking about.
There's a reason. Okay, look. What I was going to say.
I'm not even going to say the.
What I was actually going to say.
It's right on the tip of my tongue, but I'm not going there.
What we actually need to go back to is not just who put people up for candidacy, but who actually were nominated and ran. The right's response to black presidential candidate who just beat out white woman was to make a white woman who's the dumbest motherfucker I've probably ever seen on a campaign stage as the vice presidential candidate against John McCain's wishes.
Yeah.
Why do you think the Republicans lost in 2008?
It was really
because you had a bitch who. Oh man, that sounded sexist. I take that back.
It was a little.
Yeah, sorry. You had this woman who was talking about being able to see Russia from her backyard, who has no idea what's going on.
It has nothing to do with her being a female. It has everything to do with the fact that she's an adult.
Hold on, I want to.
Yes,
I want to correct something. That was not Sarah Palin that said that. That was Tina Fey that said that, and it got misattributed.
Satire.
What she said was, you can see Russia from places in Alaska because the Bering Strait is so narrow. There are places in Alaska where you can actually see Russia. She did not say that you.
It's like a 90-mile gap. That's physically impossible. Just as a heads
up.
You could literally be on the furthest point of Alaskan territory and not be able to see Russia, no matter how great your vision is and the weather conditions.
Well, regardless, the quote was misattributed. She didn't actually say.
I understand.
Sure. I got you.
It was.
Yeah.
She shouldn't have said it, and then it was.
Either way,
it was drawn out further.
That's just one of the reasons why I had my.
Sarah Palin.
That's one of the reasons why I had my little political fit on Monday night. Is people taking for gospel truth satire, and it just irritates me because we should be more intelligent.
Thank you for pointing it out.
But it was a sad pandering attempt.
It was
to say, look, we have a minority too. I mean, that's why the GOP lost. Is you put Sarah Palin as the VP candidate.
They put Sarah Palin on the ticket. Seriously, I was at a split.
McCain did not want Sarah Palin.
This was a long time ago.
Clear.
This was 2008. Well, technically 2007 at the time. You know, I was still married to someone who, my wife at the time, met John McCain, came into a funeral home because my wife was a funeral director. Met him, got to talk to him a little bit. Very won over. She was winning me over in it, and just listening to him, understanding the guy's a bona fide hero, you know, and I totally respect the guy. And I was thinking, maybe, go across the aisle, just break, I'm just always going to vote D or whatever. I'm going to go with, what my heart and my conscience says, what seems like a better way to go versus someone who's essentially untried,
it was a senator for what, one term?
One-term senator running in just because he's black and Democrat,
and well-spoken.
And well-spoken,
and
right.
was the editor of the
Right. Okay.
for the Harvard.
Do I want to go with a guy who is a seasoned statesman? That was my thought at the time. And then he picked Palin. And I go, oh, fuck no.
Yep. No, and that was my problem,
You
too.
fucked it up.
My political awakening
Because she started talking, and it wasn't about the I can see Russia from my back, that, which is not entirely true. I get it.
Yeah.
The fact, just generally her speaking and the Tea Party line and the goofiness and the Christo-fascism, that just issues from her, War on Christmas, all that crap.
Oh, yeah. No, exactly.
And I said, no, you screwed it up.
True maverick. We're true mavericks.
Yeah, no, exactly.
He was a true maverick.
Well, and I mean, it was essentially the Michelle Bachmann line. They were both the same
indistinguishable.
Thing of just obnoxious, play to the idiot base, run off of it, and don't say anything of substance or have any intelligence or have any real opinion about anything. Just parrot shit you heard from Fox News. Well, now we have Breitbart and whatnot, and she does the same thing. She parrots Breitbart and Alex Jones and everybody else, and you sound like a fucking moron. I mean, I can't vote for that.
Right.
I just can't. John McCain is the reason I had a political awakening. My political awakening happened in middle school when he was running as a Republican primary candidate, and I was all about John McCain.
You just made me feel very old, James McVeigh.
How old did you say it was?
I was in middle school, so
are you talking about 2008?
Oh my God, was it that long ago?
It was 2000.
When
he was running against George Bush.
Okay, sure.
The reason,
but
let's revisit fun history of the GOP eating its own. Because the liberals love to eat their own, and I like to talk about that all the time. But the GOP does the same thing.
Fair.
They put out a smear campaign against John McCain, saying he had an illegitimate black child, and that's basically
I heard about
that. Was basically the reason he lost the primary to George W. Bush, was that he slept with a black woman.
Who did?
And that was John McCain.
The rumor. That
while married?
But no.
Oh.
And it was a huge, stupid. I mean, it's not real. It was bullshit. But that was what
it matters to some people.
Well, that's what that was. Hey, by the way, that was Karl Rove, back when Karl Rove was running shit. But yeah, that's how Karl Rove operated.
Karl Rove.
Anyway, McCain got cheated out of the nomination, and I was like, I don't care. I'm following this. I was shocked that Bush won. When we dealt with Bush, I was pissed off about all kinds of things I didn't fully understand that I'm still pissed off about today. Now that I understand them, now that I do understand them, I'm still pissed off about them. Hello, Patriot Act. But
amen.
Yeah, really.
Yep.
Yeah, but
libertarian.
My point is that the GOP is no stranger to using race or sex to prop their shit up just as much and play race cards and sex cards as much as the Democrats do. I mean, it is entirely disingenuous for anybody to say, oh, the Democrats put Obama up because he was black and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, then what was your response? To put a dipshit woman up in return against your nominee's wishes?
Yeah.
I guess what it boils down to is that it's ridiculous for either party to claim that they have the moral or intellectual high ground, because neither party does.
Not, at least not for that kind of race.
Not de facto. No, certainly not. That has to be earned on the merits.
Yeah, that's bullshit. The Republican Party did the exact same thing in 2008 by putting Sarah Palin on that ticket. The only reason she was on there is because she was a woman, and they were hoping they would court Hillary voters who got disenfranchised by Obama beating Hillary out when it was Hillary's turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Hillary's turn.
It's
been
Hillary's turn forever, and that's why I'm concerned.
And she'll never have a turn. That's why she wrote a fucking book,
and she's going to run it again.
I really hope she does.
I bet you.
I really hope she
dollars
does.
to donuts.
Who will?
Hillary Clinton will run again in 2020, and the Democrats will give it to her.
I want to wager you, and it's not because I genuinely think you're wrong.
I think that's a good idea.
I'll wager you a bottle of what do you want?
$100 bourbon.
Fucking.
Well, I mean,
your lawyer ass versus my broke special ed.
You still got years to prepare, homie. Get ready to lose. I mean, Hillary Clinton is probably going to be the nominee for the Democrats again in 2020. Because if history has proven anything, it's that the Democrats don't fucking learn. They don't. They don't. The Republicans are quick. The Republicans are so quick to change what they're doing so they can get people in office and vote along their party lines. The Democrats just don't.
I really hope that's not the case. I hope with every fiber of my being, I hope that Hillary Clinton stays the hell
Why
away.
was Hillary Clinton again the front runner, anointed by the Democratic Party 8 years after she couldn't hang with a black man with no experience?
Yeah.
Because the Democrats don't fucking
She
learn.
never
Listen,
had a
can I
better
just say-
chance than going against Donald Trump. She never had a better chance.
She wasn't going against Donald Trump at first. There were a shitload of Democrats.
Can I say
in there.
something as
Sanders.
And Kasich, or no, not
Nick
Kasich,
Kasich was
sorry, not
Republican.
Kasich, sorry.
Who's the
Can
other
I
guy?
say
I don't
something
remember
as
his
well?
damn name, right? Yes.
I'm gonna have to speak as a moderate Dem, I guess. Look, I was so upset with everyone that was up for election. I didn't pay attention to the election for like the whole time because I was just like, I hate everybody.
Who are these dipshits?
Day, I was so upset. But at the end of the day, if it was between a Trump and a Hillary, I cannot go Trump.
Yeah, that's because a lot of people say, "Oh, they're both just as bad."
Yeah.
There's this false equivalency.
Now, I don't think it's false equivalency. If you really put a gun to my head and said Trump or Hillary, I'd say pull the fucking trigger. I'm serious.
Well, I hope that's
you wouldn't be here
the
to
worst
complain about
solution,
it. I
know,
James.
I agree.
I know that's the worst solution.
Well,
Yeah, it's not good. But even if you don't like Hillary
I would-
ideologically,
You're
if you don't like her
dramatic.
policy
You're
wise,
dramatic.
I'm not being
you cannot-
dramatic. I'm being serious.
An
I mean,
objective, rational person, whatever their political ideologies, cannot look at Donald Trump and say, "I like what he's got going on here."
yeah, but an objective, rational person can't look at the ideologies of Hillary Clinton and say, I trust her to follow anything she said since she's revamped her message entirely based
You don't
on-
have to trust her. You don't have to like her.
Yeah, no, I do. That's the thing. I'm not voting for you if I don't trust you or like you. I mean, it's just the way it is.
It's an either or. It's an either or.
And
It
if you-
was. And I know you hate it because you're
And
libertarian.
if you put
want,
me in
you
the
wanted
either
that
or
third
shoes,
category.
I'm saying I choose
It
the third
was
option.
either or.
Then
You
put me-
did. You said,
me-
put
give
a
me-
bullet in my head,
Yeah,
and-
give me the
and-
third
and-
option. Give
and
me the third option.
bury me under the willow tree.
I mean, I have a gun in my head, so I assume that the gun's going to go off if I don't choose either one of the others. So give me the bullet. I mean, isn't it the idea of give me liberty or give me death? Like,
You wanted death.
yeah. I mean, seriously.
You know that joke
Do I
about,
want-
about
do I
death
want-
by Bunji, right?
Do I
You know
want
that guy
the-
got killed, right?
Do I want? Wait, Patrick Henry? I think you're
Yeah.
confusing old stories.
Is that not the Swamp Fox?
What?
No, that's Patrick Henry.
That was a
Yeah, that was.
But there was
Patrick
also the
Henry.
Swamp
Anyway.
Fox. I thought he said that. No. Okay, I'm looking this up. There's something else that's
All
similar.
right. Anyway, so
let's not go there. Okay.
But
This
the
is a
point
Google away.
You're
This is a
giving me
Google away.
You're giving me two extremes of extremely documented, dishonest, shitty people. Hillary Clinton just comports herself better.
But not-
But that I don't care if she's going to stay off of Twitter as president. She's still going to fuck the country up, but she's probably going to do a better job of fucking it up than Donald Trump because he can't get.
See, I don't see that. I don't see how would she have fucked the country up in a way that is this bad and this eviscerating to not just what is the day-to-day policy going on, but in terms of our stature as a country, in terms of our reputation. There's a level of damage going on here with Donald Trump that you just cannot compare that.
Man, I'm gonna
We
tell you,
look like a
do you
fucking
really-
joke.
Have you talked to anybody from an international community who recognizes that Donald Trump is a joke and also doesn't hold it against us at all? And they're like, it's going to be okay. You only
I
got
have.
3 years left. You only got 3 years left.
I've talked to a few. Yeah.
I have.
And none of them are condemning us specifically. They're saying,
But
man,
at the same
America-
time, Melissa, you
Yes.
know this. You know this yourself as someone who recently traveled abroad
Yes.
as an American.
Yes.
How did that feel?
Well, I was very surprised at how willing the people I spoke with were to discuss our current president with their current leaders. And none of them looked at me, treated me, or regarded me as an idiot they understood that we did not have the. And here's one thing I may have not mentioned when we were talking about this last time. All of the people that couldn't believe that we elected Trump understood, because they also couldn't believe that we had to choose between him and Hillary. They recognized that it was a shit decision either way you went, and they now see that, you know, what's going on now, it's a disappointment to them, but they understood, at least the Europeans that I was speaking with in Austria, Germany, Czech Republic, Slovakia, they all understood that we didn't have the best of options, and they were hopeful. That one gentleman I spoke with in Salzburg, Austria, he was from Frankfurt, Germany, and he said, my hope is that there is a method to the madness, because otherwise we can't understand the madness continuing. So, but everybody was very genuinely concerned that we didn't have a whole, you know, platter of good options to choose from. So no, they don't hold it against us. They're just kind of bamboozled, I would say is the best word, perplexed, bamboozled at Donald Trump, how he's behaved since he's been in office. But they don't look at us as being.
That's scary.
Yeah, it's not so much the fact that I'm afraid that, like, Europeans hate Americans generally because of the election. You know, and I think you're right. I think there's some compassion. These were two choices that were certainly less than ideal. Really,
Yeah.
I mean, there's very few people that were pro rah 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 Hillary. I mean, it was almost impossible to find one. Again, location, Tennessee, probably super impossible to find a person who is truly pro Hillary. You know, back when we were that other group and talking about it, we couldn't even find someone who said, I love Hillary Clinton, I really want her to be president, rather than, I think she's not as bad as Donald Trump.
Well, I was surprised by the
They're
fact
two different things.
Yeah.
I was just really honestly surprised by how many people I spoke with in Europe that honestly did not like Hillary Clinton either.
Sure. I didn't like Hillary Clinton.
I was surprised by that. I expected them to be a little bit more adoring of her, but they don't like her very much at all.
But again, I'm not accusing you, but generally, you know, what's at play is something called the fallacy of relative privation, which is by saying that because something is really terrible, therefore its alternative is good. And I think probably Europeans who can be objective because they're not directly affected, you know, in any immediate sense by the outcome, can say, you know, that's what was at play here of saying, you know, that we had two bad options and picking what I think people made the wrong choice in picking the less bad option. And really it wasn't the people, it was the lack of people voting that decided, you know, the outcome of the election. But essentially, we as a nation picked with what we thought was the less bad option, and some people portray that as a good thing. I don't think any European thinks that, you know, and neither do they blame us for that. And I think that's a good, realistic way of looking at it. Saying, I don't blame you, America. I don't think Americans are more dumb than they were before the election because of the decision that came down, essentially, that we got Donald Trump as the president. But on the merits, regardless of what political ideology you hold, you cannot think of Donald Trump.
You cannot give him a second term.
No, it certainly can't give him a second term. I don't even think it's an option. And for that reason, I hope to God Hillary Clinton does not run again. That is the worst thing I can imagine. It is the worst thing I can imagine.
What did I say earlier? The liberals don't fucking learn.
I'm a liberal.
I mean, come on, James, give me a break.
I just sat here and said it is the worst thing that could happen if Hillary Clinton run again.
James, this is why liberals don't like people. Think that people. This is the problem both parties exhibit towards each other. It's what you just did. All liberals are. All conservatives are.
Let me phrase it as a rational point. How are you going to feel if she ends up being the candidate again in 2020?
Like we're doomed.
She's not. I think what you're spouting is like not true.
These are words that, like, as a Republican, I said about Donald Trump. There's no fucking way Donald Trump's going to be the candidate.
Yeah.
And then after that, there's no fucking way Donald Trump's going to win this election.
But we've learned since then. We've said What is the least acceptable outcome? We're facing it right now.
Yeah.
This is the least acceptable outcome for any rational person on this planet. Really,
Guys.
I will plant a fucking flag in that.
Well, it depends on if you want to play the long game, because that's what I was trying to say. Is if I'm a liberal right now, I would be happy as hell Donald Trump is president, because he is going to taint and destroy the Republican Party and offer you a clear path to victory for years to come.
After
James,
Because
but
you can
James,
rally
you
around-
are not a
Putting
liberal,
what
but you are
on
not
the-
a liberal,
on the-
so you
on the
cannot speak
SCOTUS.
for liberals.
Okay.
I mean,
Liberal, so you cannot
I
speak for
appreciate your
liberals.
insights, truly, but at the same time,
I'm trying to show you guys the glass half
Yeah,
full.
yeah.
Like,
okay.
you are now sitting in the driver's seat of like so much moral superiority. It's insane.
No, dude, that's not how we feel. We feel like your president, that your party and your like whole affiliation just got elected, has fundamentally dismantled the respect that has been built over since we became a nation.
I mean, you feel that
Deserved
way.
or undeserved? Yeah, I mean, truly, yeah.
No, I agree with you. You feel that way, and I have a
is-
feeling it's probably going to
A feeling like you just got raped by the opposing party.
And I feel like the rest of the world is looking at this like, Jesus Christ, when did this man leave office?
Yeah,
They're not writing us
Well,
off. They
can
haven't
I just
destroyed
add?
anything.
Can I just add
Yes,
to
Margaret.
this? I don't know if this is really anything that matters, but I think it's interesting that having just come back from Austria, they just had an election. They put a very young, very conservative person in office,
Yes.
just behind a very liberal socialist leader. Their chancellor now is a very young conservative leader.
Yeah. And
I think that there's a distinction to be drawn between like fiscal matters, because I think that that's something we can all agree and disagree on. That's like reasonable to agree and disagree on. But I think
But
that
climate,
the
though.
fundamental things like how you treat our foreign nationals and other countries and what you tweet,
yeah, no, I agree with you there. I mean, but look,
it's different.
Melissa brings a great point there in the sense that if you look at European elections that have happened since then and things, whatever the election may be, shit's moving far right. Like the fact
She always
that Marie
brings
Le,
a good point.
but the fact that Marie
I
Le
love you,
Pen,
girlfriend.
the fact that the French election came down
It
to
was really close, and it's a
cutoff
young guy
between
who's really not
Macron or
that
whatever, and
experienced.
Marie Le
Yeah.
Pen, who is essentially
Le
a
Pen.
nationalist, a Nazi.
And-
She is essentially
Mar-
a Nazi,
Yeah,
and she
Angela
almost
Merkel
won
got reelected.
France.
Angela
Yeah.
Merkel
A
got
Nazi
reelected.
almost ran.
but-
Hey guys, I have to pull out. I have to pull out. Love y'all.
Oh,
Bye,
okay.
Lacey.
okay. A little
Bye,
random,
Lacey.
but okay. See ya. Thanks
Sorry,
for coming in.
y'all. Sorry. Emergency.
Let's go. Be good. Okay.
Well,
Those are
and what I was
but
saying
anyway.
is that Angela Merkel, technically, when you look at her credentials on paper, she's technically a slightly right of center
Sure.
leader,
Yeah.
and she was just narrowly reelected in Germany while I was over there.
I saw
Um, and the thing that's interesting about that is that all the people I was speaking with, they kind of had a love-hate with Angela Merkel. Their attitude was, well, the country isn't in the shitter, so she's, I guess, doing an okay job, but we really aren't that crazy about her either. So it's not just an American thing to kind of just, status quo it till, fake it till you make it kind of thing.
And that was
Yeah.
kind of where I wanted to go with that, is that if Western Europe right now is in a giant sweep like we are of nationalistic, hard right populism. I mean, people are actually driving these elections, and so far the liberals are winning, or at least moderate liberals, and it's very, very
But see,
close.
I think per what she said, it's not really liberals. If Merkel is a
That's what I'm trying to say is moderate.
a
liberals.
mid-right person, that's not really liberal.
She's not mid-right.
winning out.
Merkel is right, pretty much centrist.
Okay.
She might lean a little right, but
That's what I'm saying. Centrist, somewhat right.
Well, that's
This
what I
is-
said. She's centrist right.
This isn't a granola candidate.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, exactly. She just moved for gay marriage or whatever. What was it, last year or earlier this year, where she allowed it to pass,
Okay.
and it was a big contentious thing. Like, she was not going to.
I
allow
Well,
it
let
to
me
pass.
just
I
tell
was
you-
completely unfamiliar. I didn't know.
From watching the news and having to rely on my remedial German, and also, talking to the people I spoke with, the reason why her approval numbers were so low in their estimation was because of all of the illegal, or not the illegal, but all of the refugees that she's
The
allowed
immigrants,
into Germany. and they're very angry about, well, now we're not as safe as we once were. I mean, we're all for being compassionate, but this has got to stop, this unfettered influx.
And that's why
she's got a lot of criticism.
That's why you're seeing nationalism take over for all these European countries. It's way different.
It's the driving force behind Brexit. It's basically it's nationalism as motivated by anti-immigrant animus.
Well, and the thing is with their immigrants, it's always anti-Muslim because they are
those
landlocked.
Immigrants
they are
tend to be Muslim. Sure.
They're landlocked with all the Middle East.
Sure.
It is easy for Middle Easterners
to come to
war-torn
areas, Syria and all these places.
We have this irrational fear of Muslims in America. Like it's easy for a Muslim to come to America. It's fucking not.
It takes years. Yeah.
But in Europe, especially under liberal governments like France's government, everything.
Right, and that was part of the thing about the EU that they let you in, and you had a host country had very little say in that.
Mm-hmm.
I get that.
And that's where you're seeing a lot of nationalistic pushback.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's really the main issue. Like that's where you're seeing it.
Yeah,
but it's still nationalism. It's still far right nationalism. And it's way more popular than you think.
Ethno-nationalism.
And so
it is. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
It is. And so the issue there, though, is that they don't disregard Trump as much as we seem to give them credit for.
Yeah. Some of them don't, certainly. These factions,
big parts of
support
their base.
that. And let's segue to our only other topic tonight.
Since we're
because I think we've gone pretty thorough on this. Speaking of Nazis, Nazis are coming to my alma mater, and I'm particularly pissed off about it.
Nazis are marching all over our state, right? Well, of course, they're avoiding they're avoiding Memphis and Nashville. Because black populations that would resist.
Yeah, they're not.
But they're
going to basically liberal bastions where you have college kids that are going to be very offended, and that's what they want. They want the angst and the anger and the attention without any serious physical blowback. So
go to.
So they're coming to MTSU, which is a big party school, also where I went to school for college.
Yes, and one of the
coming to Forest Hall, which is fun, which is the ROTC building.
Yeah,
I think the pretense, very much like in the case of Charlottesville, the Lee statue they were talking about taking down, complete pretense. They don't give a fuck about this, And just like Forest Hall, I think there was some talks of renaming the ROTC building after somebody else.
They're not actually coming for that. This is the White Lives Matter route.
Right, White Lives Matter.
This is the same. Well, Shelbyville. They're going to Shelbyville still.
Right.
Like that's the same day.
But is it the same group of people?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're
it's not that hard to get from Shelbyville to Murfreesboro. It's like
they've had different speakers now or whatever, but they're holding similar campaigns because they had so much interest from Tennesseans and people in the area.
Of course,
Shelbyville was massive, so they decided they're going to go to Murfreesboro too. Now get this.
Tied up. World Series tied up. Game 2. 3-3.
What inning?
We are at the top of the ninth, and Houston and LA are both tied at 3. Houston just got a solo home run.
Oh, yeah. Who won the first game? I missed it. I missed the first game.
LA won last night.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Wish Haley and Siobhan.
Hometown fan. Woo! I've got my own wave going.
For Houston,
one person
for Houston or for New York?
For Houston.
Oh, okay.
I grew up in Houston.
Okay. Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
That's fine. You're fine.
What I was saying is that there was so much draw from the Shelbyville thing that they decided they were going to expand.
Yeah.
But the thing they said that really pissed me off today was they made a statement to, I guess, Murfreesboro's newspaper or something like that. Someone was interviewing the leader of this movement who's doing this and said, well, the reason we're coming to Murfreesboro is we have so much respect for Tennessee's law enforcement because they'll take care of us.
What?
That's what they said.
It's a very clever statement.
That's what they
really
said. And my initial thought was, bullshit. If you actually had respect for the law enforcement here, you wouldn't subject our officers to the dangerous situation that you're subjecting them to.
Right.
I can't count on the. I know a lot of law enforcement as a former prosecutor. A lot of them who do not work in that jurisdiction are being sent there on overtime or extra pay to go help hold the fort down.
Right.
Nashville Metro is going to be there. I don't know yet if Columbia is sending people or not, but I know that there's a call out for as much law enforcement as they can get that's post-certified and active duty. Well, active duty, but actively actually on a law enforcement payroll or whatever, that they're looking for as much help as they can get in Murfreesboro.
Because it's a big damn deal.
And what this led to was the cancellation of the Contest of Champions.
Which is basically different, like drum corps or marching bands.
Bands. It's a high school marching band competition. It's the largest in the state, and it draws bands actually
like
from out of
30
state.
plus, high schools,
surrounding states. This is. I went to Spring Hill High School.
Sure, yeah, no, I've seen it when I was a student at MTSU.
I was like a soloist for the marching band.
Okay.
I was a trumpet player. This was a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
Contest of Champions was the big deal.
Yeah.
You played a lot of a lot of competitions, and like there were a lot of shit you put up with on Saturdays that you would spend from like 5 a.m. until midnight gone on some trip to go play the competition. And yeah, every one of them meant something. But Contest of Champions was the one that you wanted to win. That was the one you competed for. That was the Super Bowl of band competitions for Tennessee and part of the Southeast.
I know they've had to postpone that for all these kids who've dedicated all this time and energy and effort.
And what upsets me most
about some motherfucking Nazis.
It's not postponed. It's canceled.
Right.
They can't redo it this year, which means there's an entire senior class for the class of 2017 is not going to get to march in Contest of Champions for their senior fucking year.
Right. And I can only say it so many times, Nazis are the reason for this.
That's true.
Because there's some maggot human beings.
I will assign blame to counter protesters as well, simply because if you didn't show up and give them the platform, we wouldn't have these safety concerns.
However,
the Nazis get blamed first because they're fucking Nazis.
Because they're Nazis, yes, first and foremost. However, my understanding is that any people who are showing up in the square or trying to show up at the school or anything like that, there's not very many of them. What there is there's an organized alt event going on at the same time. But we were speaking to Mariah Phillips, who is supposed to be
Murfreesboro Love, I believe.
I think it's Murfreesboro Love. This is an event that's off-site somewhere else. It's basically a festival. There's going to be music and speakers. It's a positive event.
Yeah, it's
sort of an outpouring of love and compassion for essentially your fellow man going on.
Which is great.
To be standing in opposition to what these guys are all about.
It just shouldn't be in the city of Murfreesboro.
Zero direct interaction or confrontation. It's going to be somewhere else, somewhere offsite. If you guys want to go participate in that, I say go do that, have a good time. Do not go and protest and get in these guys' faces because that's exactly what they want. There's the only reason they would go to a big college like that is to provoke a reaction. And they want people to be pissed off. They want people to throw punches, pepper spray, all the bullshit. They want that fucking fight.
If you didn't,
don't give it to them. Go somewhere else and have fun. I'm having a Halloween party the same night. Come to my damn house. Email me after this or send me a message on Facebook. So you want to come to a Halloween party?
But you got to come in costume.
You have to have a damn costume.
Yeah.
Please, I'll help you out. I got masks left over from
and don't dress as a Nazi.
Don't dress as a Nazi because I can't promise. I can't guarantee your safety if you do that.
I mean, I'm just gonna let you know I'm wearing a full long sword and a dagger. Please don't dress as a Nazi.
There you go. Because somebody might stab your ass. But yes, I'm having a Halloween party the same night. Let's all have fun that night and ignore their bitch asses.
It's not funny. You know, the Nazi thing isn't funny. It's not okay.
Yeah.
It's just not fucking okay. And I don't care how much you love to watch liberals knee-jerk react to this stuff. Because, I mean, I'll be honest, there's a little bit of guilty pleasure that goes into that where I'm like, oh, watch them squawk. You know?
Sure.
But at the same time, I'm on their team. We're talking about fucking Nazis.
Right.
You know, like I had 2 grandfathers.
Who do you have?
I only have 2 grandfathers.
When you have to side with Nazis to bag on liberals, you've taken it too far.
Yeah, I mean, really, they're easy targets, man. You could do this all day long. Just, I mean, fuck.
Sometimes, yes.
All you got to do is make fun of the NEA. Like, why are we doing this? The National Endowment of Arts is an easy target.
Oh
you know, like, well, why the fuck are we even bagging on
What, Jews and black people? Like,
yeah,
that's what it comes down to.
No, yeah, well, yeah.
With
I don't
Nazis,
know.
I mean,
the white nationalists have now changed their message so much.
And
that who the fuck
Muslims,
knows what
I
they're even
guess.
talking about. Muslims, yeah, Mexicans.
Doesn't matter how much of this do you need to parse out?
I don't.
Right.
What I need to say is,
And that's my point.
What I need to say is that this really hurts.
Yeah,
As a conservative, as a Tennessean,
it's every bit as
is
much
not-
as these black bloc Antifa nutcases
I mean, you could
Are-
go all day with
are the albatross
with
on the left's
BLM
neck.
related protests, and I mean the protests, not just them, but the protests related to Mike Brown, where fucking East St. Louis was.
There was a false narrative.
Yeah, no,
sure.
exactly. Like, I mean, if you want to talk about stupid protests that are violent, you can do so on both sides. Don't add fuel to the fire. You know, it's one thing when there's a false narrative and it's about mistreatment of blacks by police.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's something to be
Again,
outraged
there's no
about.
equivalency,
Yeah,
though.
but
And that's the
exactly.
problem. I
That
think
makes
that's
sense.
what I
It's
hope
something
you're
to be
getting to.
outraged about. It's not okay to cause property damage, riot, hurt people.
Sure.
That's overboard. But the
But
fucking
Nazis.
But the fucking Nazis?
Right.
Like, you know what we used to do in America when the Nazis marched? We didn't fucking show up.
Yeah.
We just didn't go. Everyone stayed home and stayed far away from it. Please do that.
Yeah.
Please stay far away from this. Do not go to Shelbyville.
Don't
Do
go to
not go to
Shelbyville.
Murfreesboro.
Don't go to Murfreesboro.
Stay away from
Go
these
do
people.
something. Go participate in some other event.
If
Or
honestly,
don't
I don't even like the fact that Murfreesboro Love is doing something in Murfreesboro. Get out of the town. Leave as far away as possible. Don't contribute to the traffic problems, because that's a huge hiccup for law enforcement. You do know that Antifa and the leftist counter protests will outnumber however many protesters there, probably 5 to 1.
Especially because it's
And they're going to cause their own safety concerns, their own problems. They will cause
that's
their
the
own
fear.
property damage.
I hope
They will be
Antifa
just
does
as
not
illegal.
show up to this. Like
Oh,
the
of course they will.
the black bloc Antifa. Well,
Of course.
again, I don't want to parse that out. 'cause I
They've
don't- I
been
don't really know
coming
the
for
numbers.
Shelbyville for a long time. I don't know about.
It's been building. Yeah.
It's bad. I don't know about Murfreesboro. This was a new development as far as
I
my
guess
understanding goes.
Next week, I guess we're gonna touch back on this and see what happened and have our reflections. But the
Yeah.
Nazis, once you pissed off and getting in their faces and having a fight, don't give them what they want.
Stay away.
If for
please.
no better reason, because that's what they want.
Yeah, why would you cater to
You
Nazis?
really need no other motivation.
Don't cater to Nazis, please.
Yes.
Like,
Thank you. I
For
think
the
that's
love of
probably a
God,
pretty good place to
please don't cater to Nazis.
an ending note. It absolutely disgusts me that they're coming to where I went to college. I
Melissa-
can only imagine myself as a 20-year-old or a 22-year-old
Oh,
watching this and imagining not losing my shit. Like
I'd be.
I probably would have played right into it.
Yeah, I would.
I'll
too.
be honest with you.
I would too.
I'd
would
have
too.
gone
As a 20-year-old,
batshit crazy.
As
Yeah,
a 20-year-old, yeah, I'd be in jail for aggravated assault. I would have
Yeah.
busted several Nazi skulls with a baseball bat,
right. Exactly.
and I would have been indiscriminate. I mean, you're a Nazi, right? Like, you have
Yeah.
a Nazi flag, your ass is getting pegged with a baseball bat in the skull.
Exactly. It's not like they don't have weapons either.
Oh,
The whole thing. That's the game. Anyway,
it's not
so
okay.
let's hope cooler heads prevail.
Let's be adults.
Let's hope we don't give the Nazis what they want.
It's their First Amendment right. Let them march. As much as it hurts,
Yeah.
as disgusting as it is, as disgusting as they are, let them march.
Yep.
Leave them
You were what-
alone.
James, you were going to ask me a question?
Melissa, I wanted to hear what you had to say about this, especially I know you probably have your own anti-Nazi tirade. I would love to hear it.
Well, that's a whole other hangout. After having spent a day at Dachau, I could regale you with all kinds of things that I already knew, and then the things that I learned. It's a little frightening and disheartening at the same time to see that old adage is true. Those that don't remember history are doomed to repeat it. And I feel like even those that do remember history are saying history be damned. Let's repeat the son of a bitch anyway. And I feel like, I'm still a practicing Catholic, and I do believe in obviously God and a higher power. And I do pray I feel like at this point, we're looking at some of the worst of humanity and humankind, and all I can do, I mean, and I've said this about legislation, you cannot legislate the hearts of man. You can only pray and educate. That's all you can do. And I agree with what you're saying. Don't give them any fuel. Don't add your fuel to their fire. If you're that fueled up, channel that in a more positive direction. Don't go out with a wiffle ball bat or whatever and crack some skulls.
Or Lucille.
Because,
Sorry,
but
go ahead.
it's just, and I guess it still sticks with me. I mean, going to Dachau and being at the concentration camp was one of the most moving things that I've ever done in my life. It's something that everybody should experience. I mean, I had a flood of so many different emotions, shame, embarrassment. I felt it many times that I was being disrespectful by just even being there. It was almost like we need to remember, but also felt like I was treading on something so sacred that I was. Not that I was being disrespectful, but that I didn't belong there because it was so atrocious, and I shouldn't be there as a tourist. I should not. I mean, but it was.
I think what you're saying is you're stepping foot on hallowed ground.
Exactly, and it was probably. And the day that I went to Dachau, it was a very rainy, drizzly day. It didn't pour down rain, but it drizzled. It was somber. The weather kind of added to that whole feel. And it was one of those things where they turned the main houses. Well, of course, the barracks are gone. All that remains of the barracks are just the outline and stones. They did rebuild 2 barracks to simulate what the conditions were like at the time. But the main administrative buildings is nothing but this massive, massive museum. And we're talking documents and I mean, the amount of information was overwhelming. I think that we were there for like 4 hours minimum, and we were doing a self-guided tour, so we could move at our own pace. But just seeing the images, the photographs, and there's one that sticks with me, and I can't get it out of my head, and it's of one man that was being given. I forgot. Basically, he was being given an air embolus in his brain, just to see what that would do to him, just the experiments that they did, and just to see that they took pictures of this, you guys. They documented every crime they committed against the Jewish people. And not just Jews. There were Catholics. There were also Gypsies, the Roma. I mean,
people who were disabled,
homosexuals,
the disabled,
homosexuals, people that dared to speak out against the Nazi Party were in there too. People from Czechoslovakia, people from Poland, people from Italy. I mean, it was massive. And when I came home, when I got back to my hotel, every night that I would, was over there, I would post a kind of a collaboration or, a collage of what I'd done that day. Mm-hmm. And anytime anyone asked me, how did I feel? My emotions were just right there on the edge. I mean, the lump was in my throat all day. The tears were just right there on edge. And so if anybody asked me what Dachau was like, I couldn't speak. I mean, I could not speak. So to see how it's playing out now, after having been there, and also being, studying history is one of the things that as I've become more of an adult, something I'm more interested in. To see just the political climate in our country right now, and then that might be, David, another reason why I've been so frustrated with politics lately is because the nationalism is just, guys, stop. You're going down a path that you're not going to ever be able to return from if you keep going in that direction. And and maybe it's naive of me to think that if I pull myself out of this, anything's going to change, because it's not. But I agree. Don't go to these rallies, these marches, these events, because I think it speaks volumes enough by not being there. And if you go and do a counter protest, then you're part of the problem too. They want that. That's what they want. They want that reaction. They want that in your face.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel like there's no good can come out of any of it. No good.
I agree.
Yeah. It's, something I've seen, and it's not just, this is like online trolling taken to the absolute extreme in terms of what you see of this Nazi. People have latched onto the thing that will guarantee offend anybody with even a modicum of basic human decency. The
Right.
things you're talking about, the imagery evoked, that people have these fucking Kekistani flags and the trollishness and the fucking frog and all this shit about white nationalism, of what that's really evocative of. The idea is in its entirety, it's to provoke a reaction. The people are willing to go to this extreme to provoke a reaction, and it's fucking inhuman.
It almost it would.
But can I just to qualify? I don't want to say that I equate the Holocaust to what's going on or what's going to go on in Shelbyville and Murfreesboro. There, I think that we do have to give a little bit of a caveat. What happened with the Holocaust is in no way what I'm saying that we're about to repeat, but I'm just saying that the attitude that led to the Holocaust is kind of percolating.
There's elements of that. Here's my thought. There's elements of that that's being evoked. This the nationalistic sentiment, the anti-immigrant sentiment, and it's people who are willing to evoke that kind of imagery. They're willing to go to that extreme to provoke a reaction to gain attention for themselves.
It's
what
I would describe as emulation.
Yeah, they're emulating this, and it's not because I think very many of them actually have the spine to follow through on these kinds of things, beyond the fact that they're angry and they want to provoke a reaction. I don't think there's anything more serious really going on than that. And yeah, sure, yes, nationalistic type policy, anti-immigrant type policy, they want to see these things, but I think most people today, I really think they lack the spine of that level of conviction, which is a really good thing. But at the same time, it shows not only are these people morally reprehensible, but that fundamentally they're fucking cowards.
Yeah.
And I think, that needs to be made a point of as well.
Do we call them cowards because it makes us feel better for not retaliating?
No, I mean, I don't feel better that they're cowards. Like
do we say that word?
It's better that they're cowards than they're actually trying to follow through on it. That's all I mean.
Clearly they're trying to follow through.
I think
they're
it's
looking
in
to
certain,
bait this to make it happen. What
nativist policy.
Do we say those words like so and so? This white nationalist movement, they're cowards because it makes us feel better for us not standing up violently.
I know what you're trying to say.
We want to. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
I don't know anybody.
That's the
who's
therapeutic
an actual
response, sure.
American, somebody who is actually truly believes in this country and loves it and recognizes its history and everything else, who doesn't think, Jesus, someone needs to bash their skulls in.
Sure. Every time I see or hear something like this, I think, yes, on the moral landscape, can I truly justify violence against people like this?
Yes.
Maybe not. But do I want to do it? With every fiber of my being.
I believe
certainly.
morally, you can easily justify the violence of this. This is something you know about. This is something you understand.
But this is someone talking and being ugly versus someone actually doing something, right? It gets complicated.
These are people flying the flags and marching and screaming the same chants and pushing the same message.
Sure, but it's to provoke a reaction.
Listen. I'm not advocating for violence.
I understand
don't think you should do that. But the natural response you should feel, as Melissa was speaking, the natural response I feel is to wipe these sons of bitches
impels you towards violence. I understand.
Planet.
I feel it just as much as you do. Don't doubt me on that. Trust me.
But I mean, this is a nation of laws and a nation of reason.
Right. Sure.
We are a nation founded upon reason. We came up with this First Amendment. And I know you hate originalism, but you should probably go back and read the thing. You have to let them say and do what we said they could say and do in 1791.
Just because something's consistent with originalism doesn't mean what. Which
you mean like the entire goddamn
not doing
Constitution?
that. Not doing that.
Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway. You have to let them do their thing.
I understand that, and we are.
And I'm talking to myself right now because
you want to talk yourself out of doing something.
Because my inclination
extreme
is not even. I don't consider it extreme. Like on a moral level, when I think about it, it seems rational to wipe these people out.
I mean, but
or
at the same time, you're talking about realistically.
Yeah,
realistically, if there's going to be a response of any finality, you're talking about killing something based on something they said.
I'm thinking, overall,
because everything else is a half measure. If we're being real honest, if we're talking about punching a Nazi in the face, that makes me feel good. Guess what? They're still a fucking Nazi, right? You still have the same problem, and now they feel, persecuted and aggrieved and entitled, and you've motivated sympathy for that, right? Just by punching a Nazi in the face, just to make you feel good in the moment. The only way to deal with that with finality is to kill all of them.
As my grandfather would tell you, the only
and are we going to kill people based on something they said?
As my grandfather would tell you, the only good Nazi is a dead Nazi.
Sure.
Kind of agree with that sentiment.
But that doesn't mean we can kill them.
No, and we shouldn't. And we shouldn't. And that's the conflicting part, because your normal reaction as an American should be wipe this shit out any means necessary.
Sure. I'm right there with you. All the way up to the point of what is the best way forward from this.
Rational reaction as an American should be, fuck it. Let the idiots march.
Yeah, let the idiots march. Show them that they're pathetic on, in the marketplace of ideas, that theirs is a dead ideology.
But can I just say
the
big difference is, and I would be remiss if I didn't. I feel like I'm trying to be too much of a teacher here, and if I'm being pedantic,
you're fine.
Stop me.
You're fine. No, please. You cannot be more pedantic than James. It's fine.
Okay. One thing that I will say is that the reason why the Nazi movement sparked so much like brush fire in Germany and pretty much in that whole Central Europe region was because they were going through a very financial hurt. They were looking. I mean, people were starving. People were lost. The people didn't have jobs, so they were going through their own type of depression. And this Nazi party came up with all of the answers. So it was very hard not to be swept away with the initial rhetoric that at the time wasn't what it became. It was one of those things that morphed. So it was very easy to, and Hitler was an outstanding propagandist. I mean, you have to say, if nothing else, the man knew how to stir a crowd and to use the right words to get that emotional response. So there was a big swell of the whole German and Austria and surrounding countries wanting to be a part of this movement, because this was going to be solutions for us to get out of the state of affairs that we're in. So right now you've got this neo-Nazi movement currently in the United States, and it's not so much a grand movement within the country. This is a small fraction of the population that I think, given time, they're not going to have this momentum. I don't see them having the momentum because they don't have a Hitler leader to kind of drive their message. They're just a bunch of different idiots in different cities.
But their Hitler leader is Donald Trump. I mean,
but not really.
I mean,
like,
no. I'm not
they
trying to
paint him that way.
I'm not trying to paint Donald Trump as being anywhere near the leader Adolf Hitler was, sure. Because we should give credit where credit's due. Adolf Hitler was a much better leader than Donald Trump. But I'm just all I'm saying though is it is the same idea of emboldening that spirit.
Sure. And that's why they champion him in that way with the fucking.
And I mean,
Pepe the Frog and
please feel free to,
Daddy Trump, that whole thing.
Please feel free
the Donald Ari whatever.
Yeah, come on to Fermenting Opinions, and please feel free to challenge me on that idea.
Challenge us, absolutely.
But that's the reality of it, is that Donald Trump has emboldened Nazis, white supremacists,
Right.
white nationalists. These people,
And it's not because he
used to
believes any
hide.
of that shit.
They used to hide. They don't
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Every one of them claims Donald Trump as their champion.
Sure.
How
Hail
much more
Trump, hail
evidence
victory.
do you need to understand that Donald Trump is the one emboldening them?
No, I mean,
well,
I
here's the
disagree
thing,
with
though.
you, sir.
I would agree with that, but like I was saying, Hitler was out there stirring the masses in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Donald Trump going out there and driving the path for these Nazis that are holding these rallies and events. I mean, I don't like Donald Trump. I'm not supporting him. I'm not condoning him. But what I'm saying is, I think it's disenchanting to kind of say that he's leading the way. I mean, or it's not accurate. I mean, disenchanting may not be the right
He
word.
made it easy for them to take on
He's
the
made it-
trajectory that they
Wait,
have.
this leads to another question, though. How many Adolf Hitler supporters marched and participated in Kristallnacht versus how many of them voted for him, supported him, but not super vocally? I mean, do you not see the same thing with Trump supporters? I mean, you only have this small section that are neo-Nazis, but how many of them prop up systemic racism? How many of these people actually buy his narrative and say, oh, you know, actually fuck those black people, or something less extreme like, well, the blacks do it to themselves, or you
That's
know,
what Gorka's for.
yeah, or these Mexicans are stealing our jobs and they're really no good pieces of shit and they gotta go. What do you think actually fed Adolf Hitler? Do you think all of his supporters were rabid and were following his "let's put Jews in ovens"? I doubt it. And actually, as a matter of fact, history goes against that. Most of them didn't actually know the extremism that was actually going on.
I will tell you that when Hitler was younger, he actually dated a Jewish woman, and I believe he was spurned by this woman. And so I think a lot of his animosity is a lot of megalomaniac psychosis. He was not exact. I think that there is a case to be made that Adolf Hitler was not exactly he was not exactly sane in his membrane, to kind of paraphrase a song. I think that there are a lot of issues now, and I think that once you start gaining power, absolute power corrupts.
Of course,
absolutely.
I
think that once he got a taste of that, I think that it wasn't so much that. I mean, there are a lot of issues. Yeah, they wanted to construct the perfect Aryan race, and they made a point of sending out their soldiers to sleep with women, to impregnate them with perfect specimens, and they it was there's a. And maybe I'm just trying to split hairs. Maybe I'm trying to draw too many parallels.
No, I was going to say, stop me when you see a difference between the two.
I don't see Donald Trump.
He's not on this level. He doesn't.
No.
Donald Trump doesn't have opinions.
Not just
he doesn't have
Trump,
positions.
though, but the movement in general.
He says what works for him.
Under Steve Bannon.
Bannon
is the real enemy. I think that's.
I would agree with that. I don't think that Donald Trump has the psychological motivations that Hitler had.
Exactly.
I don't think he cares enough.
But I think Steve Bannon has found.
Oh, certainly.
If you use a useful idiot like Donald Trump,
that's exactly what
to spread as your conduit,
and
your catalyst, it works just fine, and you accomplish the same goals.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
I mean, the white nationalist movement. The idea is we need a nation that is for the pure white race, and everyone else should be exported or done away.
Well, then I have to leave the country.
I understand. Me too. But that's the same way it would have been under Nazi Germany.
Or it's going to be Ruby Ridge.
Neither one of us, none of us would have been welcomed in Nazi Germany.
Which is ironic because, I wasn't born in Mexico, but, oh well.
But either way, we could conjecture on this forever. I mean, this.
I don't care if I'd be okay per Nazi Germany. Fuck Nazis. That's what matters.
And that is what matters. And I think that the problem is that there's a lot of a lot of dangerous.
That's that speech
ties.
goes, I didn't speak out when they came for the trade
Exactly.
unionists because
Yeah.
I was not a trade unionist, and I didn't speak out when they came for the communists because I wasn't a communist. And then there was no one left to speak out for me
When they
because
came
no
for
one else
me.
was left.
And it was
Yeah.
actually
That's really what it comes down to.
it is. That was actually a speech by a Catholic. if I
Yes, it
remember
was.
correctly. But yes, that is it's exactly what it comes down to, and it's very.
I guess
simple.
what I'm saying is that I feel like in this issue, yeah, okay, James, I will concede that yes, I do agree that the people that are what we would classify as this neo-Nazi movement membership, they are emboldened by Trump and I guess the message that he's either inadvertently or deliberately putting forth. But I guess I'm having faith and hope that it's not exactly going to turn out to be a repeat of
I
history.
don't want to say that it's going to turn out that way. I apologize. What I'm saying is there's overtures from both ends, and we are getting all of the red warning flags. It's time to pick the flags up and say, hey, this is the same problem that happened before. We got to stop this shit.
That kind of goes counter to your argument that we should stay home and not, engage.
I think it actually involves staying home and not engaging.
Yeah.
I think it
I
involves
think
not giving them
dealing with the
platform.
problem, I think, it has to do with really just not paying attention to
So
the nonsense.
my point there was, as much as I want to go bash Nazi skulls,
Right.
as much as I want to use whatever means necessary to stop this movement, to stop Nazism
Yeah.
again, I realize that this is a different climate. These are different rules.
It's-
this is a different country.
Sure.
These people have a right to speak.
It
Ignore them and don't give them the platform
It
so the fire catches.
comes down to a difference between what is the therapeutic response, bashing Nazis, and what is the strategic response that's going to get you the result that you want.
Yeah.
It's showing them to be irrelevant and to show that their ideas are intellectually and morally bankrupt.
Essentially,
That's-
rob the fire of the oxygen.
Yeah.
Don't feed the fire.
Do not feed the fire.
Yeah.
That's all they have to run on is angst and anger. That's it. And if you don't give it to them, they're done.
But
And
am I
think-
naive to believe that the majority of the American populace looks at these people as just blithering idiots?
I would
I mean, I
hope
think-
so.
I think they
But
do.
I don't know. I
I think
think
they do, but a lot of them parrot the messages they parrot. A lot of them pick up their messages and push them to a less extreme degree. And that's exactly what happened in Germany
Yeah.
with the Nazi Party.
and that's what they want. Yes, they have
not
this,
everyone
they have
was,
this
not
extreme
everyone was burn the
position.
Jews, but a lot of them were, the Jews are harmful or the Jews are bad, and I don't like
Yeah.
them.
But instead of burn the Jews, it's right now it's ban the Muslims.
Yeah, or
It's,
I don't like these blacks talking too much, or they're
Right.
uppity and I don't like what they're saying. And when you put them all together,
it's still horrible, but slightly less over the top.
but the most
Yeah,
extreme people
but
are the
still
ones
bad,
holding office and pushing the message. Donald Trump is the first person to tell you that Nazis are very fine people.
Some of them, some of them are fine people.
very fine.
Some
people.
of them are very fine people. I'm sure they're doting
But anyway,
parents and-
we
regular church
really need to
attendees.
wrap this up before
But
we
yeah.
just beat this horse to death.
yeah, I think
I
I think we all agree
apologize.
Nazis are bad. Don't give them what they want.
If you get a chance to go to Munich, make a 30-minute trip by train to Dachau. It'll change your life.
I can only
I
imagine.
have zero doubt.
I feel like that's a bucket list thing now for me. I think I need to see that for myself.
And the reason why I say that is because it was, I think, the very first concentration camp that went up. It was the oldest, but it's also the easiest. Well, it's easily accessible from the Munich train lines, and it's definitely. In other words, if you get a chance to go anywhere, Poland, Germany, make a point of going to your nearest concentration camp memorial because, like I said, it'll change your life.
I can only imagine.
Just do it.
I mean, I went to the Holocaust Museum in D.C., and I'm sure that's only a shadow of what you encountered.
It still, that didn't resonate.
Seriously, if that doesn't resonate, you're not a human.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think that's going to be it for us. It's been an interesting conversation. We've gone to a lot of different places. I'm in a very somber place. I think I need another drink before I go to bed.
Yeah.
Ugh. But Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. Lace left
Yes,
us a while
sir.
ago. I appreciate her joining us. This has been Fermenting Opinions. I'm David Poseidon,
I'm James McVeigh.
and this is what we do.
Yeah.
Y'all have a good night.
Sometimes we wade through the shit.
Bye now.
Bye.
Good night.